Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Half Hour. And here we are in 2025, getting ready to bring the best out of us. And I am very excited to bring you transformational life coach, Matt Gerlach. And he is one of my, I would say, colleagues at the Brand Builders Group. And we got connected, and I thought he would be perfect to come onto the show and bring a little inspiration for you guys. So, Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here and Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. So I love that you're a transformational life coach, that you focus and work with high performers too, because I'm like obsessed with the high performer who is like willing to sacrifice all in the name of success, but then finds out that life isn't fulfilling, it's not happy, they're not healthy, and they need to go and fix everything. Yeah. So I'm like, when I find others like me that are helping these people, I'm like, hello, let's help our fellow high performers out. But how did you get into this work? I'd love to know a little bit about your backstory.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel the same way, that working with high performers, and it's more fun and it's more fulfilling to work with people that are going to do the work necessary to change their situations. And like, it doesn't have to be always like when I think back to my coaching experiences in terms of me being the coachee,
Yeah.
a lot of it is, there's not always like huge deliverables each week. A lot of it is just like, so much of it is just the ideating and like the continuous thought process. I just want to make sure everyone knows that it's not always like this week I have to write a new chapter of the book. It's the thought, it's the passive work, as I say, that is important. And that's what high performers show up to keep doing.
I love that you're sharing that, because high performers, and I am one too. So I identify with all my fellow friends out there, but it's not always about the doing, it's learning how to be in the being, right? And that is the part that is hard for a high performer, is just to be and like ruminate on different concepts and different ways to show up in life. It's like, whoa, I can do that. I can have my career and also enjoy my family and work on developing those relationships. It's like, yes.
Let's come back to the being in a little bit and talk about that, because that's a big part of my journey and what I help my clients with. When as a high performer, we've already said high performer 75 times, but as a high performer, we're used to always doing. And there comes a point where we have to be and surrender, relinquish control. So yeah, I'm excited to talk more about that.
Yeah. So share, I just got excited off of what you said. So I was like, oh, Lou.
Yeah, no, totally.
But I want to hear more about your backstory. How did you get to where you are today?
So my story, it starts in medias res, right in the middle of my life, I would say. I'm 32 years old. I was laid off from a job. I worked for a Silicon Valley software startup and I was laid off. I knew it would happen. I knew it was going to happen. The company was going the wrong direction, very clearly.
Familiar.
And I had actually made a lot of money. I was in business development for the company, and I think I probably made more than anybody else, because like I was bringing deals into the company that they couldn't close. So I'm not sure that I didn't make more money than and I'm very transparent about this. It's a part of my story, but this was in 2016 and I was making about $250,000 living in New York, which is good money. It wasn't like life-changing.
No, but that's a great career.
And I was laid off from my job, and working for this company, I had incredible freedom. No one checked. You could work from wherever and just get the job done. It was the first time I'd ever had that before. And I couldn't go back to like holding my chair down on a Friday afternoon, waiting for my boss to tell me it's time to leave. So I asked around. I outsourced my decision-making back then. And somebody said, you should start a business. And I said, okay. And they said, well, do a consulting business for baby product brands. That's what you've been doing. I said, okay. They pointed me in the direction and I started consulting for baby product brands. This was not the right direction for my life. And my story is interesting in that I don't regret this per se, but it wasn't the right direction for my life. And I didn't know how to make decisions for myself. So I remember the first client I had, were at this like delicious dinner. I'm throwing back dirty martinis with the blue cheese stuffed olives and just like, this was not what I wanted to be doing. The person I was sitting across from wasn't a nice businessman. He was actually somebody who was, I think we called him the curmudgeon. He was a very like mean, kind of selfish man. And I remember him looking at me like, oh my God, you know so much about this and you're going to change my life. And very true. And I should have known then that this was not the right path, but I didn't know. I
Right.
mean,
Something fell out of alignment, but you just kept going.
I just kept
Hmm.
going and I built my business very quickly. I don't remember how I came up with this number, but like the goal was to make like $16,000 a month. And like within 2 months, I was doing that. And I was drinking all the time. I shouldn't say all the time. I was drinking in the evenings and at lunches and things like that with
Clients
clients.
and
I was
stuff.
always
Yeah.
schmoozing. I was on airplanes all the time, drinking on airplanes, marijuana at night to fall asleep. And I became an anxious, nervous, worried wreck of a person and
Wow.
went to the doctor, found out I had high blood pressure and started on blood pressure medication. And I was just so terrified that I would crumble. And I kept pushing more and more and more so I would make more money. So when I did crumble, I would have enough money in the bank to finally like pay for that crumbling recovery time. And which is just insane looking back at this, but I know
Yeah.
I'm not alone. This is we
No, it's the vicious cycle.
it's
It's
the
what
vicious.
happens.
So my partner and I moved to LA from New York. My health was suffering and he told me that we really need to move to LA and I finally agreed to it. And then we exited the plane at LAX. We're in our apartment unpacking and I felt dizzy, lightheaded, short of breath. My chest was hurting. I took my blood pressure and it was like 180 over 115 and I went to the hospital and I spent my first night checked into the hospital.
Wow. Reality
And
check, right?
reality check and I still didn't really know what to do about it. I mean, I was very compliant. I did what the doctor said. I was going to, a dozen different types of doctors. I found yoga, I found acupuncture, I was in 3 different types of therapy.
Okay.
My partner and I were going to couples therapy. Date nights were the meditation studio. I was cardiologist, pulmonologist. I was short of breath and I thought I had lung cancer. It was really looking back anxiety.
Yeah.
And finally, this all led somewhere to where in a therapist's office, I realized that I was this way, that I was struggling so bad setting boundaries and advocating for myself because the trauma I experienced in childhood had never been addressed. And I find my story like different and almost relatable, I think more so. My childhood wasn't like horrible. I was not throwing down a flight of stairs. There were a lot of things that happened. And I'm mentioning this just because it took me a very long time to acknowledge that what they call little t trauma, which is not super like horrific, violent things, which is called big T trauma, little t trauma matters.
It does.
And
It
there were
does.
things that happened that probably did cross a little bit into the big T trauma, but my childhood was a lot of little T trauma. I was abandoned at school by my friends when they found out I was gay in the 5th grade. Well, I mean, I didn't really know I was gay in the 5th grade, but when they sensed that I was different from them. And I just had kept this all in. And the
Yeah.
alcohol came around at 17, 18 years old and just kind of numbed what needed to be numbed. And cigarettes, I smoked cigarettes all the time, which is just like so
Oh,
funny.
I did too, for sure.
It's like now I think about it, like if I had a cigarette right now, like in the morning or something, I'd
Can
have an
you imagine?
anxiety
Yeah, he
attack
used to start
from it.
every morning with the cigarette. Like,
Yeah.
what?
So yeah, this all sent me down a path of healing. I immediately got a coach that helped me advocate for my worth and set boundaries. And very quickly after bringing her on board, she helped me work through financial problems and limiting beliefs around financial trauma
Wonderful.
that I had. And I grew my business to where it was earning me $1 million a year. And I don't say that to brag at all. I say that just because that's the power of healing. And when you
I
learn your worth, you learn to advocate for it. And if you're a high performer who is doing remarkable things for your business or for your company that you work for, you're worth a lot of money. A lot of people aren't doing what you're doing. And
I love that you're sharing that because for the audience, they may have heard this, or probably have heard it more than once, but just relating back to what you're sharing. So, in my personal story, so I have had a lot of little t, a lot of big T, but on the big T side of things, I lost my mom. She was 46 and I was 23. And then my dad passed away when I was 35 and he was 62. So by the time I was 35 years old, I had lost both my parents. And I would say that I lost both my parents to exactly what you're talking about, like this disconnection from themselves. Like when I was born, they were full-time musicians. And so I refer to this as their radiance. They were in their radiance. They were in their potential. They knew who they were. They were expressing who they were. And then through the series of raising kids and lifing, right? Responsibility, bills, etc. My dad put more time into being a civil engineer. My mom took more time into being a manager at Starbucks and raising us kids, and the music stopped. And then literally Like figuratively, it stopped, and then literally, it stopped. And I found myself in a very similar position as you. I was making six figures. I was a senior leader at a company. It was maybe a year or two after my dad passed away, and I was still just like pushing through, pushing through. And I collapsed on the bathroom floor one night after like my fourth bad day in a row. And on the outside, I look like this powerhouse of a woman. I've got this, I've got that. I'm out doing the whining and dining and I've got the kids, the house, the husband, the dogs, all the things. And on the inside, I am laying powerless on the freaking bathroom floor, and I don't even have enough energy to stand up. Like, talk about a transformational time in life. Like, I had nowhere to go but up, and I called on like God, universe, and I was just like, hey, like, I can't do tomorrow the same way I'm doing today. And I only know how to do tomorrow the same way I'm doing today. And I heard a voice from within come and say, like, Becca, you're the CEO of your life. And so, like, that empowered me to stand up off the bathroom floor. And a version of me did die that day. The one that was willing to settle, the one that was pushing for other people's outcomes. But I rose off the floor a different person than the one that went down. And I say that because you went into the hospital. I collapsed on the bathroom floor. When I collapsed on the bathroom floor, I didn't know at the time I had formed autoimmune disease, connective tissue. It took me years to heal after this. I was diagnosed with two anxiety disorders, chronic stress, chronic fatigue. Like you, different, but like you, I mean, the list of things that were wrong and the list of specialists I had to go to, from acupuncture to heal, it was acupuncture, yoga, meditation, finding out who I was in that alignment. So I appreciate your story, because I think your story is kind of normal. Like, I have big loss, you have little T's, but they're not really little, right? Abandonment because of who you are is huge, right? But it makes it relatable to the audience, to the listeners, that listen, you don't have to have some crazy life thing happen in order for your life to get flipped upside down. It happens to everyday people. And listen to Matt's story and the wisdom that he's sharing, because within it is the turnaround point. So let's start to transition the story a little bit to more of the empowering side. Like, where are you now and what are you helping people do?
Thank you for that. I love what you shared, and I just want to honor everything that you've gone
Thank
through as
you.
well. And it's all the journey of life. And I think that when I'm hearing you say this, like, I think it's all a story of alignment,
Yes.
of finding alignment and learning who we are and what we need. And I was in this, like, the job that I had, there was nothing wrong with it. Like, it's just, so to kind of fast forward to today, I left my last consulting client. I had two clients that I'd been with for, one 6 years and some change, one 7 years and some change. So it's been about 5 months since I've left. And the first few months were, it was really interesting, like having to, let me back up a tiny bit. I had started my coaching business about 6 months prior to leaving my consulting clients and bringing on a few clients. And I loved doing it. And then when I ended the consulting part of my business, it was a struggle because I started heading down the wrong paths again. Like, I started going to some of these events, like trying to meet people and I was like, I don't want to work with these people. And it's not that they're bad people. It's just like,
It's an alignment thing. Yeah.
I am like a really compassionate business leader. And I work with people on their businesses, that I focus on these high performers that are either in their corporate careers and looking to start something different on their
Sure.
own, or people that are building their own businesses and need help building their businesses and creating them into ones that are super fulfilling. And I care about people more than I care about money. Like, I say, I don't run a business where, like, we have to maximize every dollar. Like, and I work with people, and that's why I have such a passion for entrepreneurship, because when you're your own boss of your own business, you don't have to maximize every dollar either, because it's your money and you get to
Yes.
decide whether you want to treat people well. And like, I like to give this example, like, if I'm the boss and forget to give you an assignment, that's like my fault. And I can't
Mhm.
be a procrastinator that is like making your life miserable, because I still want to make 100% of the company's potential, but I don't want to do my end of the bargain. And like, in my business, in my own business, like in my own coaching business, mentorship business, I accept that. Like, I could make more money if I wanted to push people harder, but I don't. Like, I really care about people, and wellness is a big part of what I do.
Yes.
I'm a yoga teacher. I love
I
cooking.
know. I
I am
see your spiritual gangster. Sure.
Thank
And I
you.
was going to comment on that. I'm like, I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher, is my
Yeah,
specialty in yoga.
yoga
But
has changed everything for me. But yeah, so during these past 5 months, I've been in a transitionary period, like, and it's really been like what do I want to spend the rest of my life doing? Like, and it's been interesting too, because like I have had some, I can't think of the word right now, but like I had been comparing myself to others and like, well, this person's like building a legacy business that they're going to be able to sell to somebody else. And I'm like, why can't I'm like, Matt, you don't want this. Like,
Yeah,
I'm,
no, yeah, I get what you're saying. You're like, I need to build Matt's legacy, and if it retires with me, then that retires with me,
that's
you know?
I've made money in my life. I need to still work. We live in Los Angeles. Life is expensive. So I do need to make some money still. But like what I really love doing is I love working one on one with people. I like working with their businesses and coming in and helping people with their sales and revenue growth problems as well. I'm also writing a book. I write personal essays that I am pitching to big media outlets. I host my own podcast. I really have a
Wonderful.
passion for like, I don't want to call it content creation. It's really more of like sharing my story and inspiring others. And
Same.
that's a business that's not necessarily sellable. And I'm at peace with that. And it's been
That's great.
interesting, like really, really like deciding what I'm doing with my life. And I love cooking more than anything in the entire world.
Really? I didn't get that, Gene, but do
Oh,
tell.
well, I mean, I love it because it's something that, growing up like with childhood trauma, like I didn't have any creative outlets. Like I've actually thought, like, I mean, 10 years ago, I would have said I don't have a single creative bone in my whole body because I had just never, like, there were always bigger fish to fry. I was worried about survival. I didn't get to like spend time on unnecessary things like learning about who I was or my identity. It was always like make money, like go
I
to
love
work.
that you're sharing that so much. I just want to pause for the listeners because do you hear that? Like, I hear that so much too, Matt. When I'm working with the professionals, they're like, I didn't know that I had a creative side. And that could just be cooking or gardening. It doesn't necessarily need to be like writing a book or painting in the traditional sense of creativity. They're like, I didn't know I could do that. And so the reason I wanted to pause is for the listeners. Matt's like sharing that 10 years ago, he didn't know he had a creative bone in his body. And now he's sitting here. He's a writer. He is a podcaster. He's a coach. He's a life coach, a business coach. He's cooking. Do you see like his passions are increasing as he finds out more of who he is? And that's happening for me too. I'm like, oh my gosh, like the possibilities are endless. But I just wanted to pause there because I think it's important for the listeners to like not only hear that, but to give themselves permission to explore that.
Thank you for saying that. And it's looked different than I expected. And I'm really proud of my relationship with money, maybe the evolution of it more so than the end result. I still struggle a bit. Like I worry a tad bit more than the average person. I'm probably, I mean, over these past 5 months, I've really been able to confirm, to get behind that I would rather give up some of the tangible things I have, which I don't have like that much. I mean, I have a nice house, but other than that, like I'm not like there's not a lot of luxuries over here. But like I'd rather give up the house and be pursuing a life that makes me feel good than having a house that makes me feel good doing a job that I don't want to do. And I
Yes.
can't, like, it's been just quite the journey over these past 5 months, like understanding what it is I want to do. I want to build my own business, my own smallish, I mean, a couple $1 million a year business is amazing. I like
Same.
helping other people build their 10 million, 20 million, $30 million businesses. I have no interest in being in a boardroom. I have no interest in somebody's $1 billion business at this point. That could change one day. But like, I can't believe that I spent 20 years like thinking that my calling in life was business only.
Mhm.
When now, like, if I could write and speak and talk and teach for a living, like cook for a living, like those are my interests.
I'm seeing you light up even when you say those words, you know? That's really awesome.
Well, I'm lighting up because I just never thought this was possible. And the more
That's
work
the
that I've
piece. Yes.
do you know who Ina Garten is? The barefoot
Mm-mm, I
contestant. So,
don't, but
so she's like a very, very big cook, online person. I mean, a TV personality. She's been on the Food Network probably for the past 15 years. And I found her when I like started my healing journey, and really, really at that point, I learned how much I loved cooking, and I'm good at it. Like I don't have a lot of natural talents, like singing and dancing and playing sports. Like totally at peace with that. I'm not good at those things, and I don't have any desire to be. But I'm good at cooking. And so during this transition, Ina, she has, I think, 13 cookbooks or something. She's made herself like quite the empire and doing it the way that she wants to. And she came out with her memoir, and that would have been like in, I think, September of 2024. And in this journey, I started reading this memoir of hers. And like, I thought she was teaching the world how to cook, but what she was teaching us is how to live a happy life.
Oh,
And
I got the goosebumps as you say that.
it's she's remarkable, and she's like 80 years old now, maybe 82. I think she doesn't look like 30, but she looks like 60. I mean, she looks so happy. And then reading her story also, like I got to see, like, they moved a lot. They actually bought a home, her and her husband, that they like immediately realized they couldn't afford, and they sold it immediately, and like now they live in quite a beautiful place in West Hampton or East Hampton. It got me to see that. And her husband, who he's like the dean at Yale, he's been on Wall Street, he's done some pretty
Okay.
fantastic things, smart guy. He said, and I wish I had this verbatim, but it was like, he said to her, do what you love. And when you do what you love, you're going to be really good at it. And like people will pay for that. And so I started to see like that they moved and they rented houses, and like it wasn't always great. And she worked all the time, like, but it was doing something she loved.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
they ended up in this like dream life that they have. And I got to see that. Like, and right now, well, I'm on this journey of creating a life that I find incredibly fulfilling. My
Love
calling
it.
is to coach others, help them learn what I've learned. I've built myself $1 million a year business, working in 15, 20 hours a week too. I'll add that, by setting boundaries, hiring people,
Yes.
advocating for what my worth was. And I realized that that wasn't fulfilling. And it's also important. I don't know that you get to really have a lot of choices without putting in some time to save some money so you have choices. And I help people do that now while creating my incredibly fulfilling life. I'm not exactly sure where this will all lead for me, but the writing part of my life, the cooking part of my life,
Oh,
it's
it'll lead
all.
to phenomenal things. But yeah, it's like what I refer to as the beautiful unfolding. It's not necessarily that you need to know exactly where it's going to go, but you follow that truth within yourself. You mentioned the word alignment. And what I have found to be true in my journey is that if I'm aligned to that truth, if I'm aligned to what I call my passions, what you're talking about, two things happen. One is the success and the money is always the outcome of. I make more money now. I have more success now, more accolades now, and I'm not trying for them. I'm literally just in my craft. I'm doing the things that I love to do. I'm showing up. I'm helping people. Even like my job with Cisco, it's like I love transformation. That's like why I geeked out with you in the beginning, because like I love personal transformation, professional transformation, business transformation. Like if there's transformation, I'm like, I'm in, right?
Mhm.
But I'm aligned to that. And so the success and the money ends up being an outcome of my alignment, which is awesome. It's so counterintuitive, listeners, but like if you pick up what Matt and I are talking about, that ends up what it happens. And then the other thing, what you're saying is, I don't know where it's going. Like for me, I have no idea where any of my journey is going either, but I know that because I'm aligned to it, that it's going to be a beautiful unfolding. I have learned that over and over again. So like, yeah, I'm very anxiety ridden too, or at least past. Like, and I say that because anxiety makes you think about the future, right? But now I get to tell anxiety, like, hey, listen, you're a dirty liar. Because what I have seen is now there's a pattern established that the unfolding that happens is 10 times more beautiful than I ever imagined. And so I just wanted to take a second to geek out on that because I love that you ended up sharing that and that you ended up going there.
I love what you shared too. And yeah, I mean, anxiety, like that's been my biggest accomplishment, I would say, in life. For me, one of the top two or three is I don't suffer from anxiety anymore.
Yeah,
And
me neither.
I would say that over these past few months, there have been, I would actually say that maybe a couple of years might have gone by where I didn't really feel anxiety at all. And I was always careful to kind of say, like, is my anxiety gone? Like, it feels lesser, but I don't want to like overgeneralize. And I felt it come back a little bit. But my therapist actually asked me about a month ago, he said, what's your relationship with existential dread or existential worry or something? And I said, I don't really have that anymore. And he was like, that's the biggest change I've seen in you, and that you don't. And
That is awesome.
I think that comes from the alignment. My definition of anxiety in a simple form, and I do think there are more complex anxieties, and I'm not
Sure.
speaking, this isn't for every single person, but I think a lot of our anxieties are that our internal needs are not matching our outside environments. and we are numbing ourselves, whether it be self medicating like I have,
Sure.
or it be going to the doctor and getting a medication that we're, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with medications, but I'm saying that a lot of times what we really need is to make those changes.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like me, I didn't know those changes. I didn't know what I needed. And it took work with coaches and therapists. And I'm a huge reader. I think we could learn a lot from other people's stories. So I don't think, I mean, even movies, documentaries, I just watched the Martha Stewart documentary recently. Like, there's just like things like this that you can like learn from. It doesn't have to be like reading a textbook. Like, you just start to see other people and how they've made their life transformations. And you get to start to see, like, oh, like this is what's going on. Like, this person was suffering and they quit that job or they left that marriage and they started to feel different. And a lot of them moved to a smaller house. A lot of them like had to get rid of some things. But you find me a person that like has let go of their problems for to downsize and simplify, who's unhappy with that. I haven't met anybody in my life.
That's awesome. I think that's a very empowering message for the audience too. And we're at the bottom of 30 minutes. I didn't even know that. It like flew by, but I want
Totally.
to take that and I'd love you to wrap this conversation up with an empowering message for the audience. Like, how can they take the insight that you've shared and apply it to their own life in a way that elevates them?
Yeah, I've been, this is flowing by too. So, in the spirit of brevity, listen to yourself. Like, my life's work has been learning to listen to myself and make the changes that my life signaled to me to make. This isn't about like necessarily reacting to everything that you feel or every message you get from internally, but it's using that information to inform yourself and eventually distill it all to make changes that make sense. But we have, for you who, if you have had trauma in your history, you're struggling to make those changes, to take the agency required to make those changes, because we've been told that we're not supposed to. We've been kind of rendered like we're not supposed to do things like that for ourselves. And we can learn that. I'm not saying it's easy. I don't want to say any of this can be done on our own. A lot of us do need therapy or needs coach or need coaching or needs help from friends that have, I mean, who have been there. But we are adults now and we are allowed to make those changes for ourselves. And by making them, our lives become in alignment. And every one of you are capable of doing this. And it's all about listening to yourself and following and learning how to build that life that makes you feel good.
Wow, Matt, like this is such a good way to kick off the new year. I know I feel better having spent the last 30 minutes with you, and I hope the
Thank
listeners do
you.
too. Thank you for being a guest so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate you.